What's up, Twitch and YouTube? It's Murphy55 coming to you with another episode of The Northern. This is episode 18 with my guy Big Kep coming through. We're going to talk a lot about some baseball, some football stuff, just general, sports stories that have been piquing my interest. But first and foremost, as always, thank you, Kep, for coming on short notice and making this thing happen, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I'll never not say no, man. Like I said, anytime you need anything, whatever it is, man, you're one of the ones I'll come running, no questions asked. So
Hey, thank you,
that's a
brother.
testament, that's a testament to the person you are. So
Hey,
I don't
thank
do
you,
that for
Kep.
everybody. So
Oh,
feel
I
privileged.
know that, man. Well, I'm the one who's privileged to have you on here, man, and your knowledge. I'm a disengaged baseball fan at this point, so your knowledge of all baseball stuff is going to be a lot more on point than mine is today. It's tough to stay locked in on baseball when your team is just sputtering and not playing any meaningful games. But I know, clearly the Phillies, and we'll get a little bit into it. Actually, why don't we do this right now? Why don't we do this right now? We're gonna switch up the order here, do a little home team breakdown because as you guys can see, Kep's got the City Connect stuff on for Philly right now. He's a big time Phillies fan. Let's talk a little bit about how the Phillies season is going, and then I'll tell you the reverse of what a Phillies season looks like, which is a Jays season.
Well, it's going well. It didn't start off too hot. We lost 2 or 3 to open the year to the Braves. So everybody was like, "Oh, here we go again." Da 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 da. And then all of a sudden, just I don't know, something switched, something sparked. Um, obviously baseball is a game of runs. You're hot, you're not, you're hot, you're not. It's a game of runs. You see if you can sustain it over 162 games. Hopefully you can stay healthy. And I mean the Phillies it was fun. It was so fun. Like I haven't watched a team like this since 2009,
Yeah.
like 2008 to 2011 with
Yeah.
Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins and our pitching staff and the bullpen and
Oswald, Halladay,
I mean,
Roy Halladay was on that team, right? Yeah.
we had such a crazy team from 2008 to 2011.
Yeah.
And then after that, obviously, they fell off, and it was 20 years, since we made the
Yeah.
playoffs. So, obviously, we're losing the World Series a couple years ago, and then I don't know what happened against Arizona and NLCS. But this year, I mean, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic still
Yeah.
because it's the Phillies, and I've gotten my heart broken my entire life. So they're the best team in baseball. Their best record in baseball. Coming out of the break, they just lost. They won today, but the opening series after the All-Star break, they just lost 2 to the Pirates.
Yeah.
They salvaged the series today. Nick Castellanos had his patented home run when bad news strikes with Joe Biden
Did he actually?
dropping
Did
out
he
of the
actually?
presidential race
No
today.
shot. He got memed again. That's
Yeah,
hilarious. Oh
he
my
hit a home
god,
run. Yeah, Castellanos hit a home run today.
dude.
But we have the full team back. Bryce Harper was out for a little while. Trey Turner was out for a little while. Schwarber was out for a little while. JT Realmuto was out for a little while. But now we've
Yeah.
got the whole team back together, and I think the only question mark now is the bullpen.
Yeah.
And we got the trade deadline coming up soon. I would love if they would get Mason Miller from Oakland to have a
Yeah.
certified closer because we do have bullpen guys, but they're not. The Rob Thompson can flip and flop because we don't have a certified closer. One day it's Jeff Hoffman, the next day
Yeah.
it's Jose Alvarado. So Sarah Anthony Dominguez could be a closer. Gregory Soto was a closer, but there's no certified closer. So getting
Yeah.
Mason Miller and solidifying that closer role, I think would put the Phillies over the top. And they're looking for an outfielder,
Yeah.
which I agree with. I just don't want to give up so much. And I know they're in win now mode, but we've got some guys in the farm system that I think could contribute
Yeah.
a couple years down the line. But watching them be the best team in baseball, they've had the best record in the National League for quite some time. And I don't think there's anybody in the National League other than the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And we just went and took 2 or 3 from them, and they're not healthy either. They're not fully healthy right now either. So,
Yeah.
I truly believe that if we could put it all together, get a certified closer, that Phillies Orioles World Series is going to feed families.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're in the market for an outfielder. Are you looking for a starting outfielder, like with some pop, or for like a fourth
Yeah,
outfielder type guy?
I don't want to give up too much for Luis Robert. I know there's been talks of Luis
Yeah.
Robert.
I didn't realize he
Um,
hit like over 35 home runs last year. Like I knew he was a good hitter. I didn't realize he had some pop too. Like I
yeah,
always thought of him as a contact guy.
And I think maybe it's just because he plays for the worst team in the big leagues. I think
Yeah,
maybe coming to a contender, maybe he would change his attitude. I just don't want to mess up the locker room either, and I don't know
yeah,
if he would gel with the locker room.
yeah,
And that's not I'm not saying anything derogatory or anything, but I just don't think he would fit in the locker room and to give up a lot. Like if they're talking J.P. Crawford
yeah,
or Justin Crawford, not J.P. Crawford, Justin Crawford, who's Carl Crawford's son, and Justin Crawford has been killing it in the minor leagues,
yeah,
and he is an outfielder. He could be our future center fielder.
yeah,
So, but to give that up, a lot of teams give up prospects because they don't have major league time, they don't have major league at bats, they've never seen a major league pitch, so they're willing to give up that unproven
yeah.
what's the one I'm prospect. They're
Commodity.
willing to
Yeah,
give up on an unproven prospect who's only been in the minor leagues for a guy that's proven to have done a lot in the major leagues. So,
yeah. And
but
I
I
mean,
would
winning a
definitely
World
love Nathan
Series
Miller.
is worth it. Like, a lot of people would say, if you're a franchise that hasn't won a lot of World Series, like you guys have had, some success in the World Series in fairly recent, at least in my lifetime. But, a lot of people would argue it's so hard. I feel like baseball maybe is the hardest sport to win a championship in, just because, aside from guaranteeing that you always have a top five payroll, which will probably get you in the playoffs. Pitching is so up and down that it's like I think baseball personally is the hardest thing to win a pennant in.
No, and that's why
Yeah.
like everybody
So neither side. Yeah.
non-baseball people are like, why do they celebrate like they do after every? Because it's hard. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, it's tough, and there's so many little intricacies, and I think especially with you can have a Cy Young pitcher get shelled and give up 5 runs in the first inning of a playoff game, and then your entire series is flipped at that point. Like it's so hard for guys to perform at an elite level, and it's one of those sports where people like you said, like the best hitters in baseball are getting outs like 7 out of 10 times. It's tough. So when you do get a chance to go for it, you might as well go all in, and you guys already have a great foundation built over there. One guy I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking for relievers. Obviously, having somebody in that closer role like Mason Miller, like you mentioned, would be huge. Jaime Garcia, he's the guy on the Jays right now. 0.66 WHIP, really good, but he's not a closer. He's more of like a high leverage guy you bring in whenever there's that big inning where the bases get loaded by somebody else, and he can get guys out. He's having a great year. Just got back off the DL and had a really good like one inning, struck out the side last night, so he might be back. I'm sure he'll get shipped out because the Jays are just in that situation where anybody who's on an expiring contract, you might as well get rid of them because it's not looking too bright for the next few years. I
It's
kind of
it's
yeah,
it's why I don't get caught up in the whole argument of baseball. Not You don't have to be athletic to play baseball. It's not the hardest
yeah,
thing to do. Like, bro, 162 games, and
yeah,
you're considered a great hitter, failing
yeah,
3 out of 10 times.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's incredible, and you got to be incredibly technically proficient too. Like you see how guys when they lose
Or
their
seven out of
swing.
10 times. My bad. I'm not a
Yeah,
math whiz.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It's all good. No, no. You know what? No, because a great hitter, at least they're getting a 400, like 400 on base percentage is a great hitter. So I think you're right in that regard. Four to 10 times if you get on base, then you're doing pretty well. But yeah, no, absolutely. Like it is a lot more difficult than people give it credit for. I'll talk briefly on the Jays situation. It's been kind of a dumpster fire. Like it took us a long time to even win a series this season, and then I think we only swept one series the entire year, and it was against like the White Sox or some horrible team. Um, and it's been brutal. Like we've been getting beaten up by our own division. Our starters got off to a great start. First couple months of the year, our starting five was looking amazing. Like everybody had an ERA under 4. Manoa was finally showing signs that he was, figuring it out. Like with the new pitch clock, last year was disastrous for him. He started the year in the minors, like just getting shelled in AAA. But then he came back and had a couple good starts, and then Tommy John surgery. And in the last couple months, even our starters have started to kind of wear out a bit. We rode them. They were giving us quality starts every time out, and we were not scoring any runs. Yeah, my guy Rambo. Did I miss the swimsuit portion of the podcast? Yeah, that's coming later. That's coming at the end. You got to stick around for the whole thing to get that. But yeah, no. Honestly, the starters now have started to kind of struggle. Our bullpen has been the worst in the league, like literally 30th in home runs given up, 30th in ERA. Like our bullpen is god awful, and now we have guys that are like waiver wire pickups that are coming in the seventh, eighth, and ninth innings because we have injuries to our closer, and even our closer before he got injured wasn't good. Our setup man Swanson, who was really good the last couple of years, his son I think was hit by a car during spring training, and he was dealing with that situation, and he only just got back up to the majors from AAA now. So it's been a really like disastrous year for us. Injuries playing a factor. I mean, Bo Bichette just went on the 10-day IL again. He's been horrible. Even when he's healthy, he's been horrible. And now there's rumors saying, an article came out today that, he's been telling friends that he would be open to a trade. And his body language tells me, like, I can tell. I can tell that if we keep him beyond this season, I really don't think he'll resign in Toronto. I think he'll go somewhere else. I think the Dodgers will pick him up and he'll become an all-star player again. I think the only positive I can see in this season, we've had a couple guys come up from AAA, and these are not prospects. These are guys who are like 25, 26-year-old AAA players, and they're outperforming our big league starters, which is frustrating because I'm like, man, these are journeymen. But you know what? The good news is we've gotten a couple guys that are maybe serviceable, but the bar is so low. Like, we talk about Varsho's like one of our most valuable players. He's batting under 200. Like, is that, the barometer is set so low right now for what makes a good Blue Jays player. It's just really frustrating when you think back to the Bautista, Encarnacion, Donaldson years, and having a murderer's row. It's just such a change, and it feels like this. I think this marks the 10th year of our new ownership. It doesn't feel like that long, but I think it's been 10 years since Alex Anthopoulos left, and went to the Dodgers and the Braves and had success at both those organizations. And I think fans are really starting to get restless here. We were chanting fire Atkins, our GM, at the last homestand. So it's people are getting unruly. But it's been almost unwatchable. I honestly, I put the game on in the background and I just checked the score. Oh yeah, we're down 5 runs in the 3rd inning. Okay, or we're winning by 1 run in the 8th inning. Okay, we know we're gonna blow the save, so it's over. It's just a really disheartening year for sure. But the worst part, and I kind of mentioned this to Kep before the podcast started up, is that our minor league has had a disastrous year too. We have no real guys knocking on the door to come up. We've had a lot of guys lose time to injury and developmental time being lost. So it really feels like this year has just been catastrophic at the major league and at the minor league level. You'd hope when you have a bad major league team, at least you got, a bright future, but it seems like the Jays are on the cusp of, maybe 5-6 years of irrelevance, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. One thing I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of an old story here, but I wanted to get your takes on, because I never got to bring this up on a podcast. The MLB season started off like during spring training, and everyone was talking about this Ohtani gambling thing, his translator, putting down money on games that the Angels were playing in. I feel like he's kind of like Teflon, like Ohtani. I feel like he's kind of moved on from this completely unscathed. What's your take on it? Has there been any pressure put on him? Has it been something that's been brought up throughout the season? I mean, All-Star Weekend just ended. I haven't heard anything about it. It kind of seems like it disappeared.
Here's my only take on it, and this was my only take on it when it first went down. He did it. He knew what was going on. You don't
Yeah.
you don't give somebody this whole I didn't know, like, bro, how do you know that amount of money is not missing or was used
Yeah.
or like come
Considering
on,
his
bro.
pay is deferred, it's not like he has that entire $750 million yet. It's all getting deferred, so I'm sure he knows very well exactly how much
Bro,
money he has in his bank
you
account
don't
at any given time.
you don't give some I don't care how close they are. You don't give somebody access to your bank account to do whatever the
Yeah.
hell they want to with it.
Oh, dude,
Like,
think
come
about how
on.
many athletes get taken advantage of by their management teams too, right? Like you hear horror stories all the time about athletes, having their funds mismanaged. You hear Hall of Fame players who are bankrupt within 5 years of leaving the league. Adrian Peterson. I mean, like, dude, there's so many players that, due to mismanagement of their money, end up, not having anything. Antonio Brown declared bankruptcy this year, right? Like, we're talking about guys who have made bags. So
Yeah,
yeah, that
those are guys that are flamboyant with their money and don't know how to and don't have financial advisors or
yeah,
do whatever the hell they want to with their money
yeah,
and giving it to family, friends,
yeah,
like
yeah,
they just go crazy. But this is totally different, and
yeah,
he's MLB, he's Major League Baseball's golden boy.
yeah.
He's not like there's no way. Like I just if I were Pete Rose, I'd come up with a whole other story about I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
Somebody else was controlling my money. Like
yeah,
that dude's a hero in Japan right now. Like he's gonna do
yeah.
whatever time he's gonna do. He's gonna get a little slap on the wrist. He's gonna go back to be Japan. He's gonna be a national hero
Oh
because he
yeah.
kept Otani's son out of prison.
Honestly, and you know what the thing
He's
is too,
banned
with
from
all this
baseball.
deferred money, he's definitely going to come out of prison with a massive payday, and I'm sure there's going to be some money rewired through some offshore bank accounts. His family and probably generations of his family are going to be set up for life. I definitely think this guy took a fall, but I think he's probably happy to do so because he knows, with access to a guy who's going to have over $1 billion in his bank account by the end of his career. Probably
Yeah.
pretty. You know, the guys do this all the time. This is not just a baseball or a sports thing. People do this all the time. There are, Robert Durst. I just watched that documentary, The Jinx. You know, he had jurors that he had paid for. And these guys are getting luxury vehicles 10 years after the fact. You know, it's people with money and influence can make people do all
People
kinds of things.
people with money and stature, they can't be trusted. They're all dirty.
Yeah.
They're all of them.
100%. And we got Jay Morg saying hashtag Jonte Porter. Dude, Jonte Porter is one of those characters. He messed up. This is not one of the topics I had on the podcast, but since we're getting into kind of gambling and stuff and in sports, Jonte Porter, rotate like a 11th, 12th man on the Raptors this past season. The Raptors were a rebuilding team, so like I mean he was really bad. 12th man on a rebuilding team is bad. But this guy, look at the contracts that terrible players are getting in the NBA now. He, I think he might have made. He probably lost more money on betting on games that he played in than he won, or maybe made like $20,000, and he's now gotten a lifetime ban from the NBA that would have netted him millions of dollars. So I mean, talk about a situation where a guy squandered an opportunity to make an amazing living, even if he never plays or amounts to anything more than a 2 point per game scorer. And which speaks to me about gambling addiction too, and that's like something. It's funny to me how these leagues will broadcast a million different daily fantasy, gambling things in game in the stadiums that they every team has a gambling partner, and then they expect the players to not be influenced by that. It's like, what do you think? NBA players with money are not immune to these advertisements,
It
Um,
didn't used to be like that either, man. Pro
yeah.
sports leagues wanted nothing to do
Oh yeah, for
with
the longest
sports
time.
betting of any kind, and now it's plastered all over arenas. It's even on players' jerseys.
Oh yeah, dude,
Like
100%. Yeah, it's
you
nuts.
can't.
Like,
It's a. I'm not a gambler. Like I played
yeah,
fantasy. I haven't played fantasy football since 2010. Like
yeah,
I even stopped playing fantasy football. Like it turns you into.
yeah,
I don't have an addictive personality. Like I
yeah,
can stop whatever
yeah,
whenever I want to. Whatever I don't know.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
always been capable of that. So like I did a couple prize pick things. I even had a code, and I
yeah,
was telling people, hey, go like it's such an addictive. Gambling is
yeah.
ridiculous. There are so many awful things that happen to people with gambling addictions.
Oh yeah,
So the fact that they push it now, like it's okay, gamble whenever, whatever, on whatever. Here's this site, that site, this other site, this like it's insane. And I'm glad I'm not. I did a
yeah.
couple prize pick things. I signed up for FanDuel for somebody to give them their money to
Yeah,
get so they have the free money to gamble with. Like that's where
yeah,
you get wrapped up with these people who peddle these, whatever, all this stuff I see within our community on Twitter with people just peddling their code to match a
yeah.
$100 deposit. Like people don't realize that these people are gambling with free money. They're not using their own money.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. You see
Here you
Drake.
got to deposit. You
Drake's
got
the
to deposit
guy.
$100. You got to
Yeah.
deposit $100 of your money so that this person can get $100 and they
Yeah.
go off and gamble with that and win and whatever.
Yeah.
You're like it's insane. That's why I stopped
Yeah.
doing it because I'm not.
Oh, for
Don't come to
sure.
me saying you can't pay your mortgage because I told you to start betting.
Oh yeah, dude. There's a thing I use for sports scores. It's called the Score app. The Score used to be like a sports network in Canada, and their app used to be pretty good. I still use it just because I've always had it on my phone. But there was a day where just checking box scores, which is all I use it for all the major sports. And just with one click, I'm onto a place where my credit card information can be put in for a gambling site related to sports. I was like, dude, they took a free app and turned it into potentially something that someone's going to click on and be like, oh, okay, yeah, why not? Why not? I'll take a chance on it. And it is that dopamine hit that people are chasing, and it's a big issue. No judgment. There's some people who enjoy gambling. I think gambling, if you look at it as a source of revenue, then it's a mistake. But if you look at it as something you enjoy and you have a limit set and you're totally fine to lose that amount of money pursuing it, I think it's when you kind of do it expecting to get something in return. These sites would not exist if everybody was out there winning money. And I still talk to friends, like a lot of I'd say of my really close friends, I'd say all of them do some sort of daily fantasy. Like literally, I'm talking like 90%. Like, because all my friends are into sports too. And I've never once heard about any of them talking about any of their losses that they've taken. It's like everybody's winning all the time. I was
No,
like,
everybody
dude,
wins. Yeah.
not everybody's winning. You're not winning. And I think it's embarrassment about the loss. And then you chase that next win. So you might lose 3 times and you hit a bet the fourth time down the road, and that erases the memory of all the stuff that you've lost. And I'm sure if you're breaking even, you're doing really, really well with sports betting, in my opinion. You know, if you're breaking even, you're doing great. But I think most people are probably in the red. You know, but it's just
Yeah, if
interesting
you're
how, yeah,
there's a couple people I know that are living the high life off of parlays and
yeah.
stuff like that. More power to you, man. But
Oh,
not
it's a
it's
cool
not
thing if you can
everybody.
do
It's
it.
not for everybody. And then
Yeah,
I know these guys that are running discords. They're charging $50 a month
yeah,
for to have people get expert advice,
yeah,
and then they tail. Like the only time I've ever tailed these guys, I've lost. Like the
yeah,
like I'm not all right.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm done. I'm not like
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, buddy, you got a nice car, you got a yacht, you got a nice
yeah,
penthouse in New York.
yeah.
Every time I tail you, I lose. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Excuse
yeah.
me.
No, no, go for it. Hey, it's all good, man. There's no
Like
restrictions
I'm
on
not.
here.
No, I'm done. Y'all, you go live your lavish life. I'm done tailing you, buddy. Every time I do, I lose.
Oh yeah, dude. You know, I know I never win anything in my life, you know, so I'm not a super lucky person. I don't know if I believe in luck even, but you know, I don't even take the chance. I used to enjoy doing like pro line bets and stuff where I just pick three teams to win and then that's it. And it was small amounts, $5 when I was in college or whatever. Just it gives you a reason to watch the sports for the night, right? Like you're sitting there, you're watching Red Zone or whatever. Yeah, that's fun. You know, it's the $5 sunken cost and it makes the games a little bit more interesting. But I
Well,
never once
and
expected to get that money
I'm such
back.
a homer. I'm such a
Yeah.
homer,
Oh yeah.
and I'm already emotionally invested into sports,
Yeah.
especially for my teams.
Yeah.
So I there's no way I can't put money on something I'm already very emotionally invested in.
Oh yeah.
There's no possible way. And I'm not going to put money on something that I don't want to watch something.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching sports.
Yeah.
I'll sit down, but I'm not as into it. I don't want to put money on teams that I don't like or players that I don't like because then I end up rooting for them. I don't want to root
Yeah.
for them.
Oh yeah.
I love Philly and hate everything else. So that alone helps me not gamble because all I would do would gamble on my favorite teams, and then I would be even more emotionally charged up, more than I
Yeah.
already am, and I'd probably die watching.
I want to know. I mean, I know Cove as well. Cove on the Mets is always put money on the Mets. He's but it's true. It's another step to fandom for sure. But like I do one fantasy football league now. I toned it down. I used to do like three back in the day. I was like, I'm gonna do one. I've only won the championship one time in like 15 years. It's a 12 guy league. But I have fun with it. It's like $50, and I know $50 for like a few months of fun and like trash talking back and forth in a group chat. That's worth it for me. For the
That's why I
camaraderie and stuff.
stopped. That's why I stopped playing fantasy football
Well, yeah, you
because
you, you gotta I gotta
I'm
hope for
taking all
Justin
the
Jefferson to get
Eagles.
no points. Like when Justin Jefferson, I'm hoping he gets no points, but I want my Vikings to win that week. So it's like, what am I doing right now? But yeah, like those situations will kill you. Monday Night Football, I'm hoping Jefferson drops a few passes and maybe fumbles one, so that I can.
2010 was the last time I played fantasy football. And if you know, 2010, the Eagles had Michael Vick, LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson. I had all
Yeah,
three of those guys on my team.
yeah,
I easily won that league that year.
yeah.
I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I can't, like, I'm done. I'm done. I can't put a guy on my fantasy team and then root for him on Sundays. I can't do it.
100%, man. The only time I won my fantasy football league was when Todd Gurley had his like MVP season. That was I think I got him in the second round that year or something, and he just carried my entire team, putting up ridiculous points every week. But there you go. We've talked about the gambling. It kind of spawned another interesting conversation about gambling across all pro sports. I want to get into a little bit of talk about award season in the MLB because we're at the halfway point. We just had like two games I think since the All Star break, so we're pretty much at just beyond the halfway point of the season. So let's do a little breakdown here. Rookie of the Year race, first one I want to talk about. So looking around baseball, the one name that comes up all the time, and I think was he the starter in the All Star game? Paul Skeens, the rookie pitcher from the Pirates. I don't think he's going to be qualifying for the Cy Young. He might not get enough innings because he came in a little bit late. But would you say that he's the clear front runner for Rookie of the Year? Or are there any other guys
Yeah.
kind of making noise?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Without question. I mean, he's disgusting. He's
yeah,
absolutely disgusting. I mean, I watched him in college. I love college baseball. I'm thoroughly locked in during
yeah,
college baseball when it comes regionals and super regionals and the College World Series. I'm only locked into NC State 'cause I'm a huge NC State baseball
yeah,
fan during like the season. But when it comes regionals, super regionals, and the College World Series, like I watched that dude in the regionals, super regionals, College World Series. I knew from day one, like there's no reason he shouldn't be in the major leagues as soon as he gets drafted.
yeah,
Like he shouldn't spend no time in the minors. Just get him
yeah.
right, get him in there.
It's just about
Um,
building up his arm, I guess, because of the longer season. Was that the only maybe thing, like strength program and
not
building up
only that,
stamina?
not only that, but major league teams want control of
Yeah,
contract.
that's true
So,
too. That's true too.
but when you're that good, like there's no reason you shouldn't be. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's far and away the rookie of the year, far and away.
Yeah, there you go. This is honestly probably going to be a pretty quick conversation here. One thing I could say, are there any rookies right now contributing on the Phillies? Or is it, you guys are probably a pretty veteran team, the fact that you have a great record and whatnot.
Yeah, no rookies. Well, I don't know. We've had a couple guys come up and make stuff. I don't know if they're going to consider Christopher Sanchez a rookie. I don't think he will be. I think because
Yeah,
he played enough last year, but and he's older too. He spent some years in the minors.
yeah,
There's been a couple pitchers that have come in and had some spot starts that contributed, but nothing
yeah.
big time.
Yeah, I mean the Jays have, the funny thing is, last season was again, the Jays had amazing health last year, which is why we still did sneak into the playoffs. It was a really frustrating season last year. I think we might have had 89 wins, but it really felt like the whole year was a struggle. So when I was like, oh well, we're actually in a playoff spot, I was surprised because it felt like we lost a lot more games than we did last year. Um, but September when the rosters expand, you get to bring up a bunch of the AAA guys, see what some guys can bring. And what stood out to me was, the AAA guys who are like 24, 25 years old that came up were hitting better than our guys who've been up on the team all year. I'm like, that's not really a good sign that these guys who are relative unknowns who haven't been able to crack the roster all these years are out hitting the pro hitters that we have. And the thing is, this year it's kind of continued. Like the guys that we've been bringing up, like Ernie Clement, who's probably 25, Nate Horowitz, who's 26, and he's been hitting incredible. He's been batting like 320, 400 on base percentage, and he's showing some more pop than he showed in the minors. Leo Jimenez, who's just up. Like these guys are all again outplaying, other than Vladdy, pretty much outplaying all of our starters. So it's fun to see the rookies. None of these guys are going to be in the rookie of the year category, and also they mostly came up throughout the season too. But I mean, I guess if you
Yeah.
could take a positive, but it's hard to get excited for like a 26-year-old journeyman. I mean, there are stories of players developing later. Josh Donaldson, I think, is an example, like who stayed in the A's farm system for a long time, came up and was an all-star and had a really, really, really good prime for like 10 years. Um, yeah, it's been
Seems
a
like everyone that's in the A's organization gets screwed over at one point or another.
Yeah, no kidding, man. The A's, I can't think of a time where the A's have actually retained talent. They used to be a pitching factory, like, all the other teams would poach their pitchers. Then it was like
No,
Matt Olson's
every
gone, Donaldson's gone, everybody's gone, man. Like
I
they
mean,
do a good job
look at
developing.
even in the '90s, 80s and
Yeah,
'90s, the
Giambi
guys
getting
left.
poached by the Yankees, right? Like, yeah, no.
McGuire left, Canseco left, Ricky Henderson left.
A
I
lot of
mean,
Hall
the
of
list
Famers
goes.
to come out of Oakland, but not a lot of them to sign a second contract with Oakland, which is, I mean, kind of the situation that the Rays find themselves in too. One of the things that's probably one of the bigger complaints I have about the MLB, I guess, is the fact that there is such a disparity in how much. Like, this is a whole other conversation, maybe a whole podcast on its own, but like salary cap in baseball, man. Like, can we really have a $300 million payroll and a $70 million payroll and expect these teams to compete? The Dodgers have again one of the better
That's
records in
on
the league,
owners,
but
man.
yeah,
That's on nobody but the owners. Owners
it
don't want to
is.
spend.
They really
Owners
don't.
have the
It's
money. Owners have
yeah,
the money. That was the case with the Phillies. That was the case with the Phillies until we got Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton.
yeah,
Before those two guys, no, they didn't want to spend. You
yeah,
have the fan base. Like the Phillies organization before John Middleton and Dave Dombrowski were foolish because you have the fan base.
yeah,
Like there's no reason you shouldn't be spending money.
yeah,
I mean, we're selling out every game this year. Like
yeah,
they're gonna have so much money, and that sucks for the smaller teams. They can't afford to pay these guys. Like that's why the
yeah.
Marlins always implode. The A's always implode.
There,
Somehow the Orioles have turned it around, and that's because
yeah,
they got um, new ownership
yeah.
and new GMs. But Mason Miller's a bright spot. Rooker's a bright spot, but they're going to get traded.
Oh, 100%,
I guarantee both of them will not be on the roster
yeah.
by the time the trade deadline comes and goes.
Yeah,
Um,
which is
but
why
that
a move to Vegas for them makes sense because they're not supporting the team in Oakland. There were diehard fans. The fans are super upset there. It's been a really hostile environment for like the last 5 years. Their stadium is in like disrepair, like it has been for 20 years. Their stadium has been the worst, one of the worst in the league. Like they've done nothing to other than put out the Moneyball movie and have people kind of think romantically about the franchise. They've really done nothing to support the A's in Oakland. So I feel bad. Oakland's getting like pillaged right now for professional sports teams, man. If I was a Bay Area person, I'd be pissed because the teams you grew up rooting for are not going to be there. And that's just like you said, it's the ownership that it comes down to,
Yep.
and the bottom line. I guess it's I looked at a stat. It was how many like the price per win. Like if you look at the payroll and how many wins a team has, the Dodgers pay the most per win of any team in the league. But they're willing to do that. So you'd think, oh yeah, they're a team with a lower payroll, but they have a decent record. Oh yeah, you're getting really good value per win, like money wise. But the Dodgers are okay to spend more on a win than any other team, because they know it's going to bring them a World Series, and it allows them to sign guys like Shohei Ohtani because players want to come there and play because they know they're going to be serious about winning every single year. And that's something that a lot of. I mean, the Jays are a top 10 payroll, but you would never know it looking at the way this roster was kind of put
Yeah,
together.
I don't know what happened to your Jays, man. I was so high on them, and then I don't know what happened.
Don Mattingly happened as hitting coach. He's completely broken a lot of guys' swings. I saw this old video circulate of him with Ted Williams, like the Red Sox Hall of Fame hitter, and
I
I
have
can't
no
remember.
idea who Ted Williams is. Please tell
Yeah,
me.
never heard of him. Now some of the younger guys in the chat might not know Ted Williams. I never got to watch him play. Kep actually went to games
No,
when Ted
I was
Williams was
not.
playing.
No, I was no, no, no,
He actually
no,
went
no.
to high
Don't even
school
go
with Ted
there.
Williams.
Don't even go there.
Yeah, no, but it's funny because in this little interview I saw, they were all talking about hitting, right? Like these great hitters, like Don Mattingly was a great hitter in his own right, but they were all talking about pulling the ball. Like if you can turn on a ball, turn on a fastball, do it. Whereas Mattingly was kind of like the only one of these Hall of Famers, like spray the ball all over the field. But I just think back to when the Jays were good, and I'm thinking of Jose Bautista, his year where he hit like 60 home runs. Every single one was to left field. He pulled every ball and he crushed the ball. Edwin Encarnacion could hit ones to center field, but he was mostly a pull hitter as well. Donaldson could hit them to center field too, but like nobody was trying to spray it to opposite field. And when we attacked fastballs and were aggressive, at strikes in the zone, that's when I was thinking 2021 the Jays just missed the playoffs by one game, but we had like 5 or 6 guys who hit 30 home runs that year. I would much rather watch a team that's aggressive and hitting home runs than what our current GM has done, which is essentially try to build a team around solid starting pitching and defense. Defense is yeah, like the old school people, like defense is important, but like bringing back Kiermaier just for defense, and then having Varsho and like Varsho's clearly he's already one of the best center fielders in the league. We would have been much better off going for a corner outfield guy, like even a Jock Peterson, who can actually hit the damn ball, instead of having a bunch of guys who are great at defense, because you can run prevention can get you so far, but if you only scored 2 or 3 runs a game, you're automatically like you're gonna lose more than you win, right? Like you can only prevent runs down to 0, but you can keep scoring runs. There's no limit on how many runs you can score. So I think that defensive philosophy is kind of one of the things that's led to the Jays' fall off, in my opinion. I'd much rather see a team that stockpiles bats as opposed to and the fact that we don't have a bullpen too, obviously, is tough. But the next thing I want to get into here, we talked about Rookie of the Year race, which was a pitcher, Skeens. Cy Young race this year. There've been I was just kind of looking through some of the pitchers in baseball. Who would you say is a front runner in the Cy Young race? Because I saw there's like Reynaldo Lopez out there. He's got a 1.88 ERA. I saw Scooble has been insane too. I was just looking up Scooble stats. He's got like a 0.88 WHIP. Like he's not allowing hits. He's almost unhittable at this point. Is there any pitcher that jumped out to you?
I think it's definitely Scooble in the AL. And the kid's unhittable now. Obviously we'll see with him being young and not being used to this workload, see if he can continue it in the second half. Plus
Yeah.
he's still plays for the Tigers, so
Yeah, I mean Tigers are almost they're like a couple games below 500. If they didn't have Scooble, their record they'd probably be one of the worst teams in
yeah.
the league. He's single-handedly like propelling them. 10
And
wins on the
again,
season.
and in the National League, I'm going. I'm a homer. Like you have Zach Wheeler, you have Aaron Nola, you have Christopher Sanchez. Christopher Sanchez is pitched out of his mind. I don't care what
Yeah,
nobody says. And then Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez was unhittable in the first half. He had a couple bumps towards the
yeah.
end before the All-Star break, but it's going to be to see if he can get back on track. Because I mean, if he does, when you're playing for that good of a team, and you pitch as well as you have, plus your offense is getting you runs, it's easy to win.
Oh,
So
100%.
if Ranger Suarez came back, and Zach Wheeler is one of the best pitchers in the big leagues. He's had I think he's had one bad start this year.
Yeah.
And then other starts, it's hard for run support for whatever reason. Same with Jacob DeGrom when, the Mets would come to the ball field. Oh, Jacob DeGrom's pitching today. We don't have to worry about hitting too much. We
Yeah.
get 2 or 3 runs, we're going to win the game.
Yeah.
That's how it is, I think, with Zach Wheeler for some reason.
Yeah.
But no, I think Ranger Suarez. The kid from the Chicago, the Japanese pitcher. I think there was a lot of talk about him, but he's tailed off a little bit. Again, man, it's a marathon. So
Yeah.
with these guys losing velocity and just arm fatigue as the year goes on, I would say Zach Wheeler and Ranger Suarez from the National
Yeah.
League for sure.
And look at J Morg's throwing out the name Chris Sale as well. So is Sale? He's on
Well,
the. Is he on the?
Chris Sale's pitching really, really well for Atlanta, but
Yeah.
I think they're still crossing their fingers, hoping he doesn't
Yeah.
get hurt because that's all he's done the last
Yeah.
5-6 years of his career.
He's had a pretty
He
forgettable
ends
time
up
in
getting
Boston.
hurt.
Like his Boston saga was nobody was talking about Chris Sale when he was on the White Sox when he came up as a closer. At first he was lights out as a closer, and then obviously one of the most dominant left-handed starters of his generation. But then Boston, it's tough. It's a tough. You got to be a strikeout pitcher in Boston because if honestly lefties are crushing home runs over that short wall in right field, by the pesky pole, and then you get like right-handers, anything airborne's gone for a home run. So it's a tough place to go as a pitcher.
I'm watching Jay Moore's chat. Here's
Yeah.
the thing: Atlanta does have the offense we have. They can score runs. If they had Ronald Acuna, the Phillies and Braves would probably be neck and neck. They lost Mustache Boy, Reese Hoskins' son.
Reese Hoskins' son.
What's his name?
Who's Mustache? I'm thinking who they have. They have Ozuna. Is Ozuna good? I mean, he's probably like a DH.
No,
at this point.
I'm talking about the guys that he got hurt. I can't think of his name.
Strider.
Strider.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So the Braves, they have Ozuna, they have Michael Harris, Ozzy Albies, they have Matt Olson, they have
They got a solid roster.
Big Country at third base. They've got decent catchers that can hit. They have an offense, but now losing Strider hurt big time. So
yeah.
I think they're going to get one of the wild card spots more than likely, and they're a dangerous team because they do have an offense.
Yeah.
So just as long as they don't play the Phillies in the divisional round, they should be able to do something in the playoffs.
Definitely. All this talk about, contending teams like the Braves, like the Phillies, it makes you think, the Jays have a lot of assets. This is probably a good year to move them because, starting pitching is always valuable down the stretch. Like when aces like Strider go down, if we could flip a Chris Bassett or something to be like bump him down in their rotation and get him some solid innings, definitely valuable.
It absolutely sucks how many good pitchers we've lost this year to Tommy John.
Oh man, dude, 100%. It's almost like a rite of passage now. Like you think about Paul Skeens, I'm like, has he ever had Tommy John? It seems like almost every power pitcher does have it at some point.
The human body is not made to do what some of these guys can do.
Oh no, all you gotta do is look at a freeze frame of a guy pitching and look at his elbow and look at that tendon and how far it pops out. It's disgusting, man.
I only played college baseball, and when I would pitch 7, 8, there was a few times where I pitched 9 innings. When I played semi-pro ball, I could not fucking move for 3 days. Like the amount of strain that is put on your body and the amount of muscles that you're using when you pitch and you throw 90. I was throwing low 90s at one point in my life, not no more. But when you're putting that much strain on your shoulder, your elbow, your back, your legs, pitching is. I'm telling you right now, if you've never pitched, you don't know what it feels like. But I literally would not be able to move for 2 or 3 days after I pitched a game.
Yeah, I think I can throw about 64 miles an hour at Oktoberfest at the game after I've had like maybe 10 beers. That's my record. So I can't imagine throwing low 90s heat. And I felt like I put everything into it too. I even might have taken a running start. So it's impressive, man. Being able to build up that arm like that. But yeah, it definitely seems like it's a tough position, and the worst thing to happen is, have your Tommy John surgery in a contract year too, and that's something that's kind of out of your control. I always feel bad for guys, who, I always refer to Max Scherzer because Max Scherzer got offered a huge, like $200+ million deal to stay with the Tigers. And, that's a crazy life-changing amount of money, generational wealth for your family and your grandkids at that point. And he turned it down and ended up getting that huge contract from the Nationals. But I just remember thinking, man, you're one Tommy John surgery away from walking out on $200 million and maybe never being able to get your health fully back. But I guess, the surgery's kind of been perfected and they're finding new ways to do it now too. So some guys come back throwing
Got
harder after Tommy John too, which is kind
as
of
long, yeah,
crazy.
as long as if you're young, if
Yeah,
you're older, it's kind of tougher.
yeah,
But yeah, the way they do Tommy John surgery and then the rehab for it, most young guys do come back throwing harder, which is crazy. But
yeah.
I never had elbow issues. It was always shoulder. I've had both of my shoulders reconstructed,
Oh
but
damn, yeah.
I never had any elbow issues. Thank
Yeah,
God.
shoulders brutal. That's I mean,
Yeah, so
knock on wood,
my
I've never
shoulders.
had anything serious, but I haven't played sports at a high level either, so that's kept me pretty safe in that regard. So yeah, we got a few guys. Ronaldo Lopez also, I think he leads the league in ERA, so he's probably got to be in that conversation too. I don't know how much wins has an impact. I know wins is maybe a tiebreak if guys have similar stats, but and then strikeouts are important too. It seems like Cy Young really values like strikeout guys, which is why like Strider is definitely a contender too because he strikes out a ton of batters. But we'll have to remain to be seen here. The last awards race I want to talk about is the big one, at the MVP race this year. There's a few names a few names who have won MVP already who I think are near the top of the conversation. Like Aaron Judge has got to be up there too. Like I think he has 34 home runs. He's probably Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is one of those guys. He's clearly an amazing player, and yet when I look at the top, maybe it's because he gets walked so much, but like I never see him in the top of the offensive categories. Like when you scroll top 5 RBIs, top 5 home runs, he's never there. But I think it's because nobody pitches to him. Is Bryce Harper your choice for MVP?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what why is that? Just because best player on the best team in baseball, essentially?
Yeah, I think it's the moment. Like he shows up for moments. Like this year, man. And this is his first full year at first base. He's playing a Gold Glove first base. Dude's never played first base in his life, and
Yeah,
he's playing a Gold Glove first base.
yeah,
To be in the light that he is, to be on the best team in the toughest city to play in, and
yeah,
the guy just shows up. Just the way he plays the game, the way he acts. I've loved Bryce Harper since day one, even when he
yeah,
was with the Nationals, and he
yeah.
was a dickhead when he first came in the league.
Oh yeah,
Nobody liked him, and now
yeah,
he's one of the most lovable guys in the league, just
yeah.
because of how he's matured and how he
And
plays
he's
the game.
embraced Philly. He's really embraced Philly a lot.
Yeah,
Like I
and
could
how he
see
goes
how he
about it,
dresses
like
pregame.
he's
Yeah,
every bit of Philadelphia. I love that dude. I
yeah.
would have his babies.
There you
Maybe,
go. You heard
possibly.
that, boys. That's going on TikTok. We're gonna clip that up. We can just end the stream now. I got my soundbite, boys. But no, Bryce Harper for sure, valid candidate. I mean, the O's and the Yankees have been kind of going back and forth all year, like trading first place, and both those teams are making the playoffs. So I could definitely see Aaron Judge. I could see him being a candidate every single year. He still plays solid defense. He's probably got the most freakish power in baseball now. Like we're no longer in the juice ball era. I was looking at like Vladdy hit 48 home runs in 2021. Like I was like, man, what happened to power? I think once they got rid of the juice balls, there's only a few players who can hit for elite home runs now. It's like Otani. Home runs in general, I feel like are down around the league. Which is funny because I thought the pitch clock would maybe make it more difficult for pitchers, but I don't feel like that's been the case. Um, I don't know. Gunnar Henderson, having a great year with the Orioles too, and like I think the Orioles are a real team that have a lot of people buzzing about them. The Orioles, I think it's very unlikely that Gunnar would win it because I do think they kind of have that recency bias, like he's got his whole career, he's going to have a lot of MVP type seasons, most likely playing a premium position and hitting for power. So I doubt he wins it, but definitely worth talking about. Devers in Boston says B Show 99 as well. Yeah, Devers probably the only player on the Red Sox I know right now, but that just shows how little I've been locked in on baseball.
They have a guy that could make a case for rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Raphael, I think his name is
Oh yeah, the
Rafaela.
he's an outfielder, right? An outfielder for
Yeah,
them. I only know him from
yeah,
playing MLB The Show. I wouldn't know about him otherwise. But yeah, Jaron Duran, center fielder, the lefty. Yeah, he's balling out too. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I think it's Aaron Judge's to lose, but again, we still have half the season to go, so anything can
yeah,
happen.
yeah. And
I don't see
once
anybody.
Shohei starts pitching again.
I don't see anybody in the National League. And the
Yeah,
National League is so mediocre; it's ridiculous.
yeah.
There's not
Shohei's only a
other than
DH,
the
right?
Phillies.
He doesn't play defense right now. He's just a DH essentially. So like that kind of hurts his value a little bit. I think. I mean, it's hard to imagine like when Shohei does get back to being a two-way player, it's hard to like I don't know how that even works with like WAR and stuff. If you have a pitching WAR and then a position WAR, like that's got to give him a leg up on every other player in the league. You're two players for one. Like that's, I think when he did win MVP, it was definitely deserved. I still can't wrap my head around that there can be players who can, like he's such a unicorn, man. I can't stop. Like it's crazy to me too that he played on a team with Mike Trout, who's probably the penultimate MLB player of the last 10 years. Like Mike Trout's a goat. And he overshadowed him immediately. Like he came in and essentially, I don't hear anything about Mike Trout anymore. It's all about Shohei. He's eclipsed one of the best players of the last 10 years really quickly.
Mike
Um,
Mike Trout again, one of those dudes where his body can't do what
yeah,
his body isn't meant to do what he can do.
yeah.
You know, I don't,
He's
I don't, I don't, I don't see my. I never saw Mike Trout as a 5-tool player because he didn't have that decent of an arm. He's not that great defensively,
yeah,
but he can run. He can steal bases and he can hit.
yeah,
So he's like a 3.5 tool player.
yeah,
But I mean, he is really. But yeah, you like you said, Shohei came in and he immediately overshadowed one of if not the best player in the major leagues.
yeah.
And now Mike
Absolutely.
Trout can't stay healthy. So you were talking about Mike Trout being maybe one of the greatest ever,
Yeah,
and injuries have derailed that conversation. I don't think he's going to be in that conversation anymore because who
for
knows how
sure.
much longer he's got.
Yeah, I mean, you see that with a lot of guys. Like, catcher is obviously a tough position to play long. You see Joe Mauer's career relatively short. Like, like I think his career might have been 10 years or something. Buster Posey, like you see guys, certain positions are more demanding physically than others, and I think they take that into account with Hall of Fame consideration. Those guys will both be in the Hall. But yeah, it's always sad to see the changing of the guard. Like I always feel like if Trout never wins a World Series, I feel like he made a decision to stay loyal and take a huge bag from the
That's
Angels. And
just, that's just the
yeah,
type of guy he is, man.
I don't think it matters to him. I don't think he's gonna look back on baseball and be like, oh man, the one that got away, we could have won a World Series. I think he's gonna look back and be like, man, I had a hell of a career, and I don't think anybody can take away anything from Mike Trout. The physical stuff, I'm sure he takes good care of his body. A lot of it's just it's just aging, man. Age is undefeated. It comes for us at some point. It's gonna come for you, and there's very few people who can make it through a 15, 20-year career without at least missing some significant time. Those are the guys who are like just blessed, I guess. The Cal Ripkins. I don't think we'll ever see a Cal Ripken again, where you see guys playing for 20 straight years without taking a day off. It's just it's not going to happen in today's game with all that's expected of players.
And it's
Um,
crazy. It's crazy that Mike Trout he's only 32 years old, but because of the wear and tear on his body, he's probably more. He's probably a lot older than what the number says,
yeah, I
just from
mean,
wear and tear.
yeah, it kind of makes me think too, like how many years are left on his contract? He signed a 10-year deal like a few years ago. He's probably gonna be there till he's like almost 40. There's something about going to the Angels love signing guys to massive deals that like to end their career. Like Rendon's, I don't know, he's probably under contract for way longer than I'd like to think about. He's been awful like since he left the Nationals. Like Rendon's probably one of the most overplayed players in the league. Um, Albert Pujols, man, the first 10 years of Pujols' career with the Cardinals was incredible. He was like a 320 hitter, 40 home runs, 120 RBIs a year, and then he goes to the Angels and it's like, "Oh my god, we got to pay this guy for 10 years?" Like he was just a shell of his former self. So the Angels have an awful history of I mean, they even took Vernon Wells off of the Jays' hands. We gave him the biggest contract for a Blue Jay ever. He immediately became horrible as soon as he signed that contract, and then they took him off of our hands too. So the Angels love taking on old injured guys and just like putting them out to pasture essentially. Um, so no offense if there's any Angels fans in here. I know D Robe's an Angels fan, but I don't think he's in here today, so we're okay. Um, but the other thing I want to talk about, so we'll see who wins MVP. I want to touch on this because Khyree Jackson had a card in Madden. A lot of people's first exposure to him was probably that comp pass card, the last comp pass card that most people got before they hopped over to college football. But we had he's 24-year-old cornerback coming from Oregon, third round pick, so not like super highly touted, but like seemed to have a lot of fanfare. A lot of Vikings, were talking about him as like the player to watch on their roster, and then tragically passed away, hit by a driver who was under the influence. And apparently the driver was like, from what I've heard, was like a high school friend of his. So I don't know if they were leaving a party together or something, and he got hit by some girl he went to high school with and lost his life. But beyond that, a few days later, there was like a candlelight vigil. I don't know if you heard about this part, but there was a candlelight vigil for Khyree Jackson that also got shot up. And somebody died at it, and a couple other people were shot at it. So it makes me wonder, like, obviously I think of gang related when I hear somebody shooting up a vigil. I don't know the full story on it, um, but
I did not. I did not hear that part.
yeah.
Um,
So
I did
I'm
not know
wondering.
that. And I know Kyrie didn't have the greatest track record. I get,
Yeah,
he was at 3 different schools.
yeah,
He was in some trouble, so he didn't have the. But still, man, a death is a death. A loss is a
yeah,
loss. Whether and I know there's this perception of me myself when when I talk about things, but I'm still empathetic. I'm still
yeah,
compassionate for the loss of people. And there were some content creators out there that were just completely like the body wasn't even cold yet, and they're
yeah,
all just talking about, oh, he was a horrible human being, whatever, whatever. But like, bro,
yeah,
like he still has a mom, he still has a family, he still has
yeah,
like, and not only that, like two of his best friends died with him.
yeah,
That they all played high school football together. One was a
yeah,
corner for Penn State, and I think the other was a corner for Maryland.
yeah,
So with the loss of life, man, like too soon, right? Like, but
yeah,
when
for
like
sure.
jokes and making light of the situation, trying to use comedy to make light of the situation,
Yeah,
that's different. But when you're the vitriol out there over, oh well, he wasn't that good a person, so
yeah,
whatever, it doesn't matter. Like
yeah.
that's just disgusting. I didn't know that
Yeah, that's I only saw the initial article come out. I never I'm not gonna lie, I read the headline of it and I read like a couple tweets about it, but I never bothered to research into it too much. But yeah, I did hear that it was shot up, which that instantly in my head makes me wonder about. It's obviously not NFL fans, it's not Vikings fans going out there and doing this. This is somebody who had a serious problem with him.
and the only reason he was drafted so late was because of his off field stuff. He was
Yeah.
probably a first, second round talent,
Yeah, oh
but
yeah. I mean,
because
6'4". He's
because
got
of
the
that,
Tariq Woolen build to him, and he's got that
and
swagger to him too. Where I thought he was going to be a really good gem. And also, part of me, wanted to make a comment or make light, not make light of it on my stream, but I was thinking, the Vikings have a cursed relationship with drafting cornerbacks. We had Jeff Gladney, who was like a high draft pick, who fizzled out, and then again passed away at age 27. I can't remember what the circumstances were. Every cornerback that we've drafted has had big issues, and it seems like we're kind of cursed in that regard. But then I was like, I'm not even going to speak on it because it doesn't matter. Like the football part doesn't matter. It's a sad situation, and getting value out of a third round pick, is not important in the grand scheme of things. It's a sad thing. But there's kind of a story that came out just a couple days afterwards. I wanted to kind of piggyback off this, talking about the Vikings being cursed with this bad news. But Jordan Addison, who was really solid rookie receiver, 1,000 yards, just under 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, looked really good. I think he had a touchdown against your Phillies this year. Had a great season, has the world at his fingertips. Like, he's got Justin Jefferson on the other side. His opportunity is going to be huge going forward. He's going to have a great career, tons of money on the table. And he got, booked for being asleep on an overpass on the way to LAX, like intoxicated, arrested for that. And then 2 days later on his Instagram, he's posting him like having brunch with like a big bottle of champagne next to him. I'm like, man, like some of these people, and unfollowing the Vikings on Instagram, doing the whole thing that all athletes do now, where you're like this, he probably got a phone call being like, we got to talk, you got to clean up your act, whatever, and got offended, and is on the warpath. And now I'm like, there's another young guy who's kind of having this risky behavior, but like he's super rich already off his rookie deal alone. First round pick, he's getting a lot of guaranteed money coming his way, and he has tens of millions on the table. It's like, it really doesn't matter like how many opportunities you have at your fingertips if your mentals aren't right, and if you're surrounded by people that aren't looking out for you. It's you can easily throw that away. So a lot of people commented like, how do you feel about, it's so bad that days after his teammate was hit by somebody who was under the influence that he's out driving. I'm like, I look at it as two separate things. I don't look at it as, oh, you have to take this into account. Like, you're making a bad decision. Thousands of people make that decision to drink and drive every day. That it's not it's your own decision. It's something that DUIs are a very common thing.
I
um
don't,
yeah,
I don't. Again, I'm not trying to make this about me, but people think
yeah,
I'm just an asshole, like just a plain asshole, right?
yeah,
But I am probably one of the least judgmental people
yeah,
anybody will ever meet in their life, because I know I'm not perfect. I know I've messed
100%.
up. I've been put in situations where my mind had to go, it was point A to point B. You had to make a split decision, either make the right one or the wrong one. And when when feelings are involved, when emotions are involved, or whatever else is involved, whatever you got
Yeah,
going, everybody's got something going on upstairs.
yeah,
And whether you're able to deal with that in a positive way or in a negative way, You have to make a decision. You have free will to make whatever decision it is you want to make. And if you make the wrong one, you have to deal with the
Yeah.
legal repercussions, and whatever else. But then you've got to deal, and now in this day and age, you have to deal with the public perception
Yeah.
and the public hatred and all these people that come out of the woodwork that think they're perfect and never done anything wrong in their entire
Oh
fucking
yeah.
life, and they're like, I'm holier than thou.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'd rather hang out with somebody who done something wrong than somebody who thinks they're fucking perfect.
100%.
People who think they're perfect are the worst people in the world.
Can I just tell you, and I'm just thinking about this now that you're bringing this up. Can I just say how glad I am that D Money is streaming Lego or whatever right now? That I didn't have to read his Twitter comments on all of these situations coming out, because he would have been grandstanding and up on a soapbox, um, talking about what a bad person that all these people were. You know, it's like there's no place for judgment in these things. It's like, imagine your lowest point in your life being broadcast to an audience who all have an opinion on it too, right? Like nobody would want to have their lowest or most embarrassing moment put on this type of a stage. And you know what? I think the thing with Addison that people are upset about, you know, before his rookie season even started, he had that crazy speeding incident where, you know, his dog had to go to the hospital or whatever, in air quotes. You know, and he kind of got off scot free and we gave him a pass on it. But, you know, he's obviously got a love for these fast cars and that lifestyle and stuff. And it's like, you know, at this point, go buy yourself a Maybach, go get yourself a chauffeur, get carted around in style, have your champagne in the back of the car if you want to, you know, when you're out in the off season, you don't have any workouts coming up the next day, you know, live your life, enjoy it. But I just hope, I'm like, man, I really enjoyed watching his rookie season, and I just hope that this isn't the start of like a spiral, because we've seen guys that have the world at their fingertips just spiral and miss out on
These
life changing
these kids
opportunities. I hope he's not one of
these
those guys.
these kids are coming into so much money. They
Yeah,
don't come from money. They don't
yeah,
know what to do with money. And again, like you said, if you don't have people around you that, you know, constantly have people around you. And that's my whole thing with drinking and driving. When you're a celebrity or a professional athlete, you got all this money. You
yeah,
ain't got to worry about you ain't got to worry about nothing. You ain't got to worry about where your next meal's coming from. You got to worry about
yeah,
paying for nothing. Pay for a damn Uber, bro. Like, pay for an Uber.
yeah,
Go get your car the next day. Like, it is not worth it. But again,
yeah. I'm sure these teams have services too for players. Like for
oh, yeah, yeah,
I
they
would be
do. They do.
shocked. Like the Vikings are consistently ranked as like one of the top one or two teams in the NFL at taking care of their players, like, you know, mental health supports, whatever the family needs, like taking care of families. I can guarantee you the Vikings have something in place where you call somebody from the organization, they will send you a driver, no matter where you are. They'll get somebody over there to pick you up. But again, an Uber is like what, $11 to get where you want to go. Like, you know, it's inconsequential to these guys. You know, it's just that's the thing. You know, when you're under the influence, you know, your judgment gets tarnished, and you know, you forget about stuff. You know, you feel invincible on the football field, and you think you're invincible out there too. But bad things happen every day to people, so you know, better be careful when you can. But yeah, just you know, those two stories coming out, I was like, man, you know, can we catch a break here? I hope there's no more bad news coming. You know, obviously sad about what happened to Khyree. Big Papa Manny checking in. Appreciate you coming through, man.
Big, big,
Um,
big time sad, man. Like, I need 24 years old.
yeah,
Not even his doing, man.
yeah,
Even with the stuff with Henry Ruggs,
yeah,
you know, that's sad too. That's
yeah.
sad too. I mean, they're not
And
just one
he
life was
got
lost that
troll, he
day.
got dragged. You know, we still see jokes about Henry Ruggs happening, right? We still see players being renamed or whatever on franchises. Like, you know, the whole situation sucks, man. Like his life is essentially ruined. You know, he's spending time behind bars. He's lost his, you know, his best way to make money and support him and his family. It's still a sad situation. Does he deserve? You know, that's not my job to say what people deserve. You know, there's a lot of people who are looking to hand out sentences and be the judge, jury, and executioner whenever something bad happens that's publicized. But like, bottom line, you know, it's a lot of people's lives change for the worst, and it's just overall it's a sad thing, you know, for the victims and for the people who, you know, who have anything to do with the whole circumstance. I definitely agree with that too. Probably an unpopular opinion, and a lot of people grandstand on it, but you know, this
Like I said,
podcast,
man,
no grandstanding here. Yeah,
like I said, it's easy to sit at your desk on your keyboard or your device and tweet out vile shit, knowing damn well you're not perfect, but you're gonna
yeah,
claim to be because you can be anything you want to be on the internet.
yeah,
So, but I again, man, like that's the worst type of person to me is somebody who thinks they're perfect.
Yeah,
and they know we know nobody is, you know. So
absolutely.
some of the stuff I see, on the internet after stuff like that just makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And I don't know how like people have the platforms they do and able to spill that shit and get away with it.
Anything for clicks these days, man. Sometimes the more vile and provocative, the better. Honestly, it's just pure engagement. Like put something out there that's gonna get people to react to it in a visceral way, and you've got yourself a banger tweet that's gonna get you a bunch of followers. It's gonna get you some sponsorship deals. It's sadly interaction attention on social media, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. Like any attention is profitable for people. Once Twitter started handing out checks for for how many clicks you get. I feel like things have kind of gone downhill even more, but that's maybe something for another podcast. But the last thing I wanted to talk about on the pod today, we talk a lot about IRL sports and sports interest stories, but obviously the biggest thing, and I'm sure like athletes, celebrities, everybody's talking about it. College Football 25 came out first time in a decade. I know you're playing a ton of it. I've been just getting into it in the last week and enjoying it. What are your thoughts on the game so far? What modes have you been playing? Are you enjoying it? What's your initial experience like about a week into the game being out?
I love, 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 love college football. It always college football back in the day for me always took me up until Madden came out. I would send over the draft class and
Yeah,
do that whole thing into Madden, and it was always just a stopgap to get me to Madden.
yeah,
And it probably will be
yeah,
what it is now too, just because
yeah,
I'm so much more. I mean, I'm emotionally invested into Penn State football. I've been a Penn State football fan my entire life, just like I have my Philly teams.
yeah,
Um, so I'm very vested in Penn State football. I know the players on Penn State. I know the top players in college football:
yeah,
the Olivers, the Jalen Moreaus, like the top players for the top teams, right?
yeah,
And then I know a couple top players for the outside the top 25 or whatever.
yeah,
But I've thoroughly been enjoying it for what it's worth.
yeah,
It's the regs mode, amazing. The road to
yeah,
college football playoff mode, amazing. The only thing that hamstrings that is having to be locked into that team's playbook.
yeah,
So that's why you're seeing a lot of Alabama versus Alabama, Alabama versus Texas,
yeah,
Georgia, some of the top teams. I'm playing with Penn State. I love Penn State's team. They have two of the best running backs in the country. So I've been locked in with Penn State, playing with Penn State.
yeah,
So that mode is fun. We're doing, the players lounge tournaments are play a friend, so you
yeah,
can pick your playbooks. A little bit tougher when you're playing those top teams with the top playbooks. I think
yeah,
they should keep it team specific playbook, but whatever. It's not.
yeah,
But as far as the game's concerned,
yeah. I've
um,
seen some crazy clips. I will say I've been seeing
yeah,
crazy clips,
it's
and most of them are not phrased in a positive way. I've seen some
when it
nut stuff happening.
when it comes to when it comes to Ultimate Team, this gauntlet, this champs, all the modes are on default All American. I think it
Yeah,
would be better if they were on Heisman.
Heisman. Yeah,
Less things would happen. Guys would catch.
yeah.
It looks like. I'm not saying it's Madden. It's not Madden. It feels different than Madden,
It
but the
does. Yeah.
animations are the same. Luckily, we don't get a lot of throw out of sacks because the quarterbacks
Yeah, throw to
somehow they
sack.
throw the ball
They have a
away.
guy draped on their waist. They still get it 20
Yeah,
yards
and they're
downfield.
throwing the ball away.
That's been
So
interesting. Yeah, that's
there's
been
some
very
things, man.
different.
These running backs right now, they're like 5 or 6 speed faster than any defender on the field.
Yeah,
So if you're in the open field and you make a guy miss, you're gone. There's no
yeah.
catching him. There's no the
Which I
pursuit
mean,
angle.
when I think about watching college football, you do see a lot more blowout games, and you do see people running. It in some ways it is kind of more realistic because there is still a big gap between the top elite NFL prospect guys and your 4 year senior guys. Like there is a gap in giftedness. So I wonder if that's like by design or not. But definitely challenging for like a pay to win mode like Ultimate Team to see those gaps.
I think once Madden comes out, college football dies competitively
Yeah.
just
But
because
the
guys
dynasty
are
and
gonna.
stuff might be something that people
Yeah,
return to
the
during the
dynasty
college
stuff,
season.
the road to college football playoff, that
Yeah.
might stick. But I think I could be wrong. Don't. I could be wrong, but I think Ultimate Team and tournaments and stuff. Obviously, I don't know if EA has anything planned tourney
Yeah.
wise for college football. I know Players Lounge is going to continue, but it's going to be interesting to see how everybody, not just content creators, but how EA, Mutthead, and Players Lounge and all these people that throw tournaments handle the balance between Madden and college football, especially
Yeah.
with guys like there's a lot of pro guys and a lot of comp guys that are like, I'm off this game as soon as Madden drops because it's not
Oh yeah.
competitive at all.
Yeah.
So that may open the door for
Yeah.
guys that aren't as competitive and aren't pro players. So it may not.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, I could be wrong, but I saw the numbers the other day. I was looking for a regs game, road to college football playoff game. There was 800,000 people looking for games,
That's crazy.
and
That's
then
nuts.
there was the amount of people that bought college football early,
I
like
saw
got
I
the
saw a tweet about that.
2.2 million people paid an extra $30
For 3 days of early
for
access.
3 days.
Yeah.
2.2. Do the math. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. 100%, man.
So it'll be
It's
interesting
crazy.
to see how much it dies off after
Yeah.
Madden comes out. I'm gonna try and balance both.
Yeah.
I don't. Financially, I won't be able to do it, and I love
Yeah.
Ultimate Team. I just love the
Yeah.
nostalgia and the legends and the. I just love Ultimate Team.
Oh, for sure.
So
Legend just came out today
we'll
too, so
see, we'll see how they maintain it, especially on EA's part too, because hopefully they have two different teams, two different content teams, and they
yeah.
can keep pumping out content for both. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm having fun. I'm definitely having fun, but it's as ragey and as
Yeah.
it's it's Madden. It's Madden with college teams, college uniforms, with wider hash marks, same animations. It feels different.
Yeah.
It feels different, but it doesn't. If you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. The wider hash mark. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I really got into watching college football early last year. You know, my daughter was still young enough that she would just nap on me. So I'd lay down, I'd watch a 3 hour college game. She sleeps the whole thing. Once she stopped napping on the couch, my college football time got cut in half. Like, you know, I barely got to catch games after the first 5 weeks of the season. But you know, the pageantry of college football, the tradition is cool. I've basically played a little bit of Road to Glory, which honestly, I played as a middle linebacker on Heisman difficulty. I was like, I can't catch anything in the over the shoulder camera view. It's you can't see anything. The camera doesn't pivot the way you would think it would. I remember playing that mode back in the day, probably in when I was in college, like 2010. I remember playing one of the old like maybe the 2007 version of the game, and I remember like taking pick sixes all over the house. I feel like the camera angles were better back then. Maybe it's just that I was sharper back then. I was younger, quicker. But I played Dynasty and the customization, the recruiting. I actually ended up sitting and watching a bunch of YouTube videos on like recruiting. I'm like, you know what? Now that I kind of have an understanding of it, it is kind of cool. Like if building a team is something that's interesting to you, there's lots to do on there aside from just playing the game itself. And then there's this team builder thing that came out, which I spent some time on there. If you're a content creator, you got your own logos and stuff. You can create jerseys, stadiums. I just made a cloud franchise mode with like my own alma mater from Canada with a bunch of stuff that I'm going to try out on stream, and that could be a lot of fun too. And you can do the underdog way, whatever. But I'll say it's a W. The gameplay is different. I'm glad it doesn't feel. Everyone kept saying it's a reskin of Madden. I'm glad that the gameplay does feel a little bit different, even if it means there's some mismatches this early in the year. I intentionally didn't want to play College Ultimate Team at all. I was like, you know what? I've been pretty critical of EA for like pack odds and stuff like that and how difficult No Money Spent is. I'm just on the cusp of finishing Rookie Premier's No Money Spent this year for the first time. Like I could probably sell my team and I'd be done now, but yeah, I'm gonna stick on Madden maybe one day a week or something for the next little bit. But I was like, do I really want to engage in two pay to win modes from EA when they don't really do me any favors to try and make the No Money Spent journey fun? So I decided to sit out Ultimate Team, but then there's that FOMO that kicks in. I'm seeing all these cards coming. I'm like, oh my god, this looks fun. But now I'm like, I didn't play for the first week, so I'm already at a huge disadvantage because I missed two massive, XP and training exploits, and I'm already like, head and shoulders behind everybody else with these god squads. So I'm probably gonna sit College Ultimate Team out for the summer. I did see that they are putting a little bit of crossover content from the Ultimate Alumni program. I'm hoping all it is you have to play those 10 solos a week, and it gives you a champion level player in Madden. I put out a tweet months ago. I was really hoping they'd keep college and Madden separate. Personally, I didn't want to see crossover content because I feel like, if you're a Madden guy, but you don't really mess with college football, the idea of that your Madden team might be at a disadvantage because you didn't buy $100 game that I don't like. I wish they kind of kept it separate, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it seems like everybody has bought college football just based on the facts that you said. 2.2 million early users, 800,000 people searching for a game. I'd say people who didn't buy both games are maybe in the minority or 12 years old and can't afford it. Um, but I don't think I've seen a game hyped up this much on social media and this many people this obsessed with it. Morg just said it's the most fun he's had on a game in about 7 years. Um, so it definitely seems like people are enjoying it so far, but it doesn't mean it comes without its flaws.
Yeah, it's definitely didn't come without its flaws. But again, it's an early. I think I don't know. I'm not too fond of patches, just because patches tend to break more things than they fix.
Yeah,
So I'm not. I'd rather just play one build of the game and just adapt and overcome to that build. Again, I'm old
yeah,
school with that. So, but there's been some glitches and as far as packs go in the store and stuff where certain packs were spitting out 88s and 89s and people have god squads already without
yeah,
having to really spend any coin. They just they have a whole binder of 88s and 89s. Now those things can't sell
yeah,
because the market is so oversaturated, and they put a cap. They put a
yeah,
they put a they put a ceiling and a basement on what cards can sell for what when it comes to the top cards. Like I've been trying to
yeah,
sell 288s for 318K for like 2 days now.
yeah,
One of them sold, so I had like 900K chilling
yeah,
just because. But they I don't know. Hopefully they get it together. And I know the college football team does have some members of the Madden team on it. So
yeah,
again, it's going to be interesting to see what they do to balance both games once Madden drops in what I mean. Madden comes out August 13th, so
yeah,
we're only 3.5 weeks away
yeah.
from
It's a
Madden
very
dropping.
brief
We're gonna have
prime
two
of college
football games
football.
full force,
Yeah,
and
it's going to
and I
be a
know
fun
there's gonna be
summer.
and I know
I'm
there's gonna be some
curious.
content
Yeah,
crossover. But
yeah,
I want to see more college names,
yeah,
guys that were great in college. Like today, we got Pat White. That dude didn't sniff a snap in the NFL,
yeah, yeah,
but he was incredible in college.
yeah,
So I want to see more names like that. I want to see more names like Pat
for
White.
sure. Or
Uh,
else they're not going to beat the reskin allegations. It's true when you see a legend drop and it's got Randy Moss and it's got all these guys. We've had 17 Randy Moss cards in Madden this year. Do we really need another Randy Moss card? There's a place and time for it for sure, but I think especially with the game just coming out now, definitely focus on the college names to start, and then maybe as it starts to die down at the end of its peak season when there's a lot of big player base, then maybe you can start bringing in the older guys. But I totally agree with what you're saying there. Make it a different enough experience that we're not just getting recycled cards, and because I can almost guarantee you now, first week of Madden, first Legends drop, we're probably gonna get the exact same Randy Moss card that we just got
Randy
in college
Moss,
football.
Revis.
It's gonna be the same dude. So and we get the same Ultimate Legends that we get at Legends 2 every year. So it is quite a bit of recycling that happens, and I guess EA is like, I don't want to have to pay all these players for their name and likeness, these professional players too.
Well,
But
I'll
I
tell you
mean,
what, the amount of money they've made already on college football,
yeah,
they
they're
better
chilling
get
right
some
now.
names. They
Yeah,
better they better get on the horn and be
yep,
like, yo, the
yeah,
whoever
yeah,
whatever name comes to mind for just a college guy.
yeah,
Um, what who am I? Charlie Ward, like
yeah,
those guys, like the guys that were amazing in college but didn't sniff nothing in the NFL.
yeah.
Those are the names I want to see. Call them up, man. Call them, offer them. You gotta offer them something.
Call up
I
some of
remember
these
T. I
guys who
remember
have been
To
out
coming
there.
out.
Yeah,
I remember To coming out that one year. Man, I'm not joining Madden. They offered me $1,500.
yeah, exactly, right? Like, dude, honestly, go out and call up some guy who's been working as an accountant for the last 15 years, who had a good run in college. Call up some guys who are working average Joe jobs and give them a little payday, and be like, let my kid go on there and play as me. I think that's a pretty cool thing, and I'm sure it's cool for all the people who have family members that are in the NCAA to be able to be like, hey, I'm gonna hop on, play as West Virginia, my cousin's second string left outside linebacker for them. But that's kind of a cool story, and I'm sure people are going to be getting screenshots and saving those. And I think it's exciting. The one thing is, this is the year for college football. They're going to make bank this summer. People are going to be buying teams and Ultimate Team. I don't think next summer we're going to have similar hype, the build up, because this one was 10 years in the making.
Yeah,
It next year, who knows? It might be, instead of 800,000 people searching, it might be cut in half. But it'll be interesting to see if there are any people who kind of shy away from Madden, at least for the first few months, and focus on college and find a space for them. But I do think there's been a lot of cool YouTube content already. I never really watched Madden YouTube content, but I've actually been finding with all these modes and not really knowing what to do or how to start, I've actually been like searching in YouTube, like, okay, how do I do this in Dynasty? How do I do that? And a lot of people are going to be making a name for themselves streaming college football. I feel like personally, I'm almost like a little bit overwhelmed because I'm still enjoying MLB the Show, and there's something about the summer of Madden. Obviously, Madden is super dead right now. You get one drop of 3 cards a week, and nobody's on it at this point. You know, I kind of like the chill parts of the summer that I can just hop on, play head-to-head seasons, talk to chat, not have to worry about grinding content, hopping on to play a bunch of solos. Like, and then I play MLB the Show too, and that's my second game, and that has content like maybe once or twice a week. So this summer, having to manage MLB and finish up Madden stuff and college, it's been a bit overwhelming, but we'll get into rhythm eventually, and just try to, that's why I'm going to focus on these offline modes because I can pick up Dynasty, play a couple games, and come back to it 2 weeks later, and I haven't missed out on anything. That's the nice part about it. Ultimate Team, you step away from any Ultimate Team mode for a week, and it feels like you got to spend a month trying to catch up. And that's that stress factor, of grinding these modes. Either that or
Yeah,
open up the checkbook.
especially if you want good cards. And that was my thing with MLB, man. That game is a job.
Oh yeah, dude, for
If
sure.
you don't want to have to spend any money, you have to play that game like it's your job.
Yeah, for sure. I find the difference for me is I actually enjoy grinding MLB offline. I'll just put on a YouTube video or put on a stream and just have that on and hit home runs on rookie difficulty and farm stats, and it's fun to me. I don't enjoy hopping on Madden and playing solo battles and running stretch every time and going down after I get a first down and chewing clock. It's just that to me, offline Madden grinding feels like more of a job than anything. Like I've never played a solo that I've been like, oh, that's a cool set of 10 solo challenges to play. It's always like boring. Whereas MLB, I don't mind it. I actually play with different cards in MLB. I don't just stick with, the meta team like I do in Madden. But I'll tell you what, if I was an MLB streamer, like a full time guy like Daddy Demu or something, I'd be upset with MLB.
I don't know how they do it.
They've been pretty like this year specifically. There was like a week and a half after the 4th of July, nothing happened on MLB. I was like, dude, this is like it's the All-Star break. How is this game dead? As a second game, I have a lot of fun on MLB, but if it was my first game, I'd probably be looking for another hobby because it's been stale. And even a lot of MLB guys are hopping over to college football too now, so it's definitely the biggest game probably in the last 10 years in the sports space. So and, we'll have fun with it this summer, and then who knows, once the fall hits, I'm sure once the first college football games go out, they'll have some cool promos happening like in early September.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see how the whole content year unfolds, and I'm sure by the time NFL season gets into its peak, college will tail off, but you never know. Last thing I want to talk about, Cap, plans for the summer. So you got the summer right now. You're grinding a lot of streaming. You're gonna be streaming after this as well later on today.
Yeah.
What, you got any plans for the summer? Anything going on with you? Family stuff or anything personal you're doing?
Nah, man. Being in a situation I am, I'm looking to move to Virginia, hopefully,
Yep.
to be closer to my youngest son, who was, his mother up and moved to Virginia.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I have him every other week now that he's out of school. I mean, he's 2 hours away from me,
Yeah.
so I've been having a hard time dealing with that. I mask it, I hide it really well because
Yeah.
I don't need people weaponizing shit against me anymore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I got laid off a couple months ago, so streaming's my full-time gig now. It's my only source of income. So I mean, it's been going pretty well. So, just I can't wait for obviously I got the Phillies. I'm locked in on the Phillies. I mean,
Yes, sir.
I'm typically locked in on the Phillies even if they're bad, just because I love
Yeah.
baseball.
Something to
But
have every day. It's something to have in the background. Like that's the one
but
beautiful thing about it. Every day you can expect the game.
just streaming. My boys, my oldest boy starts college here in a little while in the fall, so that'll be cool.
Nice. That's
Um,
awesome.
I know he's going to be playing baseball, but that's not. I mean, he'll be doing fall stuff, but that's not till
Yeah.
next spring that he's playing college baseball. But just being a daddy and taking care of my dogs, streaming, having fun watching my teams, man. That's about it. I mean, there's a lake near me. I need to figure out how to. I've
Go
only lived here
fishing.
since October, and I don't really get out much because I
Yeah.
live in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere. I don't have any friends here, so
Yeah.
it's tough to get out and go do things. But hopefully get to the water. I love the water.
Oh man,
So
I've been hitting up. We have a pool in Toronto. A lot of people were like surprised in the state. I don't know if you guys have free pools down there, but like in Toronto, pretty much all the community centers are free. Like we pay a ton of taxes here, so like it better be free because they take all my paycheck and
No,
goes
they're not
towards.
free here. You got to pay a
Yeah.
membership.
Oh, dude, I've gone to the pool. It's like probably a 10-minute walk from my house. It's beautiful outdoor pool. Water's nice and warm. I've been there every single day with my daughter. Just go float around. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I've been carrying a little bit of extra weight since COVID. I'm like, man, I just love feeling weightless, just floating around in that pool, cooling off in the summer. It's been amazing. And I've been doing a lot of work around the house too, like, fixing stuff up. And it's like, man, it used to be I could, work a full-time job, come home, do stuff around the house, and I was fine. Now if I go weed the backyard, or if I go, I was doing some concrete stuff, I'm like, man, I'm sore for like a week. Every job I do, I'm sore for a week, and then if I do two jobs in a week, I just feel like I like death. So the water floating around is like my only place where I feel like, okay, this is nice. So yeah, I definitely been enjoying that and spending time with my daughter. She's busy now, like, you know, uh, a year and a half at this point, running all over the place. So it's a different summer than last year, where she was still,
Oh
you could
yeah.
take her out, she sleeps in the stroller. Everything's easy. Now it's like you got to keep her entertained. So keeps me busy
She's
for sure.
go go go. Wants to reach for everything.
Oh yeah, still like just starting to talk a little bit, like words here and there. But I have a feeling by the end of the summer she's gonna be telling me off even more. So she tells me no, but I know by the end of the summer, once she gets language and starts talking, it's a whole different ball game, because then you got to start bargaining with your kids, and that's a whole other challenge. But
Fatherhood, being a dad is the best thing in the world, man.
it is,
Uh,
man, for sure. It's something that, and when I talked to Rambo in the podcast too, I mentioned that, he had put out some tweets that, sometimes, we're grinding all this content stuff. You're focusing on all the other stuff that's, it's important because we care about it, but it's not that important. You kind of lose track sometimes of what is actually important. So, the other day I had a stream where I was like, man, this stream, it just sucked. Not because of the people that were in the chat, just because I was just like not feeling it. I was a little bit off my schedule. I was playing like garbage against computers in Dynasty. And I got off stream and I was like, oh man, that was awful. That was a train wreck. And I was like, spending time with family definitely makes you kind of put that stuff into perspective, and pulled me out of that place. So, man, I hope you get out to the lake. I hope you enjoy the summer, man. I appreciate you hopping in for this. This is always a blast, sitting down and chatting with you. Um, hopefully we get a chance to do it again. I'm going to try keeping doing these weekly podcasts. Try to think what the next big sports podcast to do is. What do you think the next big sports event is? I guess the start of college football is just around the corner.
I mean, I started college football, but then I mean, training camp starts today for most.
Yeah,
Training camp starts either today or tomorrow for most NFL teams. So training camp's going to be in full swing.
yeah,
Obviously the roster cut downs.
yeah,
I know my Eagles are going to be a big story with how their season ended last year. So
for
I'm
sure.
keying in on Eagles training camp and seeing what's coming out of that. See how things are going with the coach and the coordinators and all these pieces we got, the draft we had. There's a lot of stories. Obviously the hard knocks with the Giants. They're even more
Yeah.
laughable than I thought
Oh
they
my
were.
God, that's gonna be a train.
Bro,
I would love to be a
I
fly on the
cannot,
wall
bro.
in that organization.
I
What
cannot wait for Saquon Barkley to rush for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against them. I
It's
cannot wait.
almost, you know what, we talked about sports betting. That's one that I would lock in right now. I guarantee you Saquon goes off for like a generational game and probably gets like 296 rushing yards and breaks the all-time record. He's gonna go insane against them. He's got two
Everybody,
chances to
everybody,
do it this
everybody
year.
talking like he's old and washed. Dude is 27 years old. He's not even close
And
to
his
being
quads have
washed.
and his quads have biceps. This guy stays in great shape. He's had injury issues a little bit, but he's one of those
And
guys where he's just a
that's another
freak.
thing. That's another thing that bothers me. Oh, Saquon Barkley's injury prone. Other than his season he lost to his ACL, he's missed a
Yeah.
total of 4 games.
Yeah, yeah. And he takes a beating, and he's a workhorse too. I think you guys. I mean, Derrick
He's
Henry
not
got
going
to
to be
change
he's
the
not going to be the
scenery.
focal point of he's not going to be the focal point of the offense, and he's not playing for a shit team.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's gonna be a great piece for you guys, and I think your offense is gonna be good next year. Defense, hopefully, the cornerbacks bounce back a little bit, but yeah, I think the Eagles are gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be between the Eagles and the Niners again. I think those are gonna be the two best teams in the NFC. I know Sully's in here, so I got to talk about the Lions. Potentially being good, but I still think Eagles, Niners probably the most complete rosters. Maybe the NFL, definitely in the NFC. So we'll see how it goes. And I'm looking forward to the NFL just to watch the Vikings have a developmental year. We haven't actually drafted a quarterback since probably Christian Ponder.
Oh,
That's been expected to be a
we're
starter.
not that far, we're not that far from NFL preseason football with the Hall of Fame game. We're not like,
Yeah,
bro, we're almost there. We're
yeah.
almost there.
I'm excited, man. It's gonna be a fun summer, and yeah, football season's gonna be upon us before we even know it. But Cat man,
Hopefully,
thanks.
Sam Darnold does good things for you guys.
Don't even talk to me about Sam Darnold. He's probably like, dude, if there was one name, I have talked more smack about Sam Darnold than any other quarterback, and it's probably because B. Johnsy's always in here was saying he's gonna be the next great thing, and I'm like, Johnsy, what the hell are you talking about, man? He's Zach Wilson was the next great thing, Darnold's the next great thing. I've talked so much smack about Darnold.
Bro,
I was not excited at all.
JJ McCarthy's the starter by week 5.
I hope so. I think we have an early bye week this year, which is actually in most cases an early bye week sucks. But as a Vikings fan waiting to see the rookie, I think after the bye week, which is maybe like week 6 or something, I
Eagles
think
have
we
a
definitely see
early
him.
bye week too. I think like week 4 or 5.
Oh, there you go. So that's when you can hand it off to Kenny Pickett. Then he can take over as
Oh
the new
yeah,
starter
yeah,
after the bye week.
yeah.
Hurts will be done, and you'll get your new starter in there. That was a good
Our
snipe. He's gonna
backup
be.
quarterback's better than your starter.
I know, right, dude? Yeah, I'm not excited to watch Sam Darnold do his thing, but you know what? Jefferson's still going to be going off for 120 yards a game, and if Addison can stay out of jail, we might have a chance. We'll see. It'll be an exciting offense. Hawkinson will be back halfway through the season. I'm just excited to have no expectations going into the year and just actually enjoy individual player performances. I know we're going to win maybe 6 to 8 games, probably more like 6, but last year was heartbreaking because it did look like we had turned things around before Kirk got injured. This year we can just chill and maybe I'll get more into fantasy football this year since my team's not going to be taking home any prizes. But Kev, man, thank you so much for coming through and doing this. I really appreciate you getting the podcast in. And you know what time you're booting up later on tonight?
Probably in the next hour, probably.
Beauty, beauty. But we'll do this again sometime. Hopefully, I would love to get the panel one back too. I think that'd be kind of cool to bring the panel podcast back. I just got to find some personalities that can stand up to you and Cove because you guys at this point it's more your podcast than it is mine. So I don't know who to put in as my two other commentators. We might have to find a new overlay where I can just split the screen with you two guys and have you go toe to toe. But
I was kind of tame on this one. I just had to send my baby boy off for the week till next Sunday, right before I hopped on. So,
oh man,
um,
yeah,
so
I hear
I'm a
that.
little, the mentals are a little jacked, but so I was
Oh,
a little
dude.
tame on this one.
Hey, well, I still appreciate the sports knowledge. I appreciate you sharing the time. I was in a spot, man. I told my wife, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know I'm off. I know I took my stream the other day, and it just permeated for about a 24-hour stretch where I was just like this pissy, irritable person, and it happens. The stuff you deal with IRL, spills into everything else you do. But I appreciate you. Hopefully it took your mind off that a little bit and
Yeah, I
set
don't
you up
know
for a
if you
good
know
sleep.
this about me, but I'm an emotional creature. I want you
Kev's
so
emotional, guys. You heard that? He's in tune with his emotional side though. But you know what?
good,
It's
good,
funny
hey, good, bad,
how
or indifferent. Good, bad, or
I bet
indifferent. It's
you
right here.
5 years ago, I bet you nobody would be saying that about you. They wouldn't know that about you. But you've kind of broken down the stigma. I think of like we're all humans. We all go through it. I appreciate your openness about it all and not being judgmental. I think everybody wants to be judgmental. Everyone wants to have opinions on everything. I think it's a healthy take to be like, you know what, sometimes stuff just happens and we don't need to be jumping on people when they're down.
I know everybody's got an opinion, but like I said, man, I'm the least judgmental person you'll ever meet in your life, and that's because I've fucked up. I've made mistakes, but piling on and being a disgusting human being when you want it's like I said, it's one thing to be funny and crack jokes and stuff like that, but when you say some shit and it's there's malice behind it, there's hate
Yeah.
behind it. I ain't got
Yeah.
time for that shit, man. Especially if you don't know the person, if you don't know me. It's one thing. I love busting people's balls. If you're my friend, I'm gonna bust your balls till the sun comes up,
Oh
and I
yeah.
expect you to do it back to me. But man, everybody's got an opinion, but sometimes you just got to keep your fucking mouth shut.
100%. Because I can guarantee you, people aren't going to be showing up to the to the fishing hole by Kep's house and saying the same things that they say online. Like
Hell no, they
it,
ain't.
it's
Not without not without getting drug into that pond.
absolutely. There you go, boys. That's a perfect spot to end the podcast right there, guys. You don't want to end up at the bottom of the pond in Kep's neighborhood.